said, really hugely excited to have some locals today, locals to Adelaide, possibly not locals to Lee, but locals to Ben and I. So fantastic. Thank you, Stuart. I'll hand over to you and we'll get started.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully, yes, you can see it, and I'll go on to that. And yep, we're all good.
Looking good.
All good. Okay, so firstly, my background is I've got a master's in maths, so I was very quantity at school and at university, had 15 years in the finance industry, but managed to break free. And I was a long time SAS coder, and I managed to break free. So using tools like R and Python now instead of SAS, and obviously tools like Power BI and Tableau for data visualization. I've been sort of 10 years, I guess 2008 to 2018, I was leading analytics functions at Suncorp, CS Energy, and at Followmont. And moved to Adelaide in 2018, where I've sort of been more hands-on. I was hands-on in those analytics lead roles, but really wanted to focus on being hands-on day in, day out. At the moment, I'm contracting 3 days a week and having 2 days a week serving clients as part of Flint Analytics. I tried to get it off the ground in 2019. Demand was slow at the time, but it's sort of really picked up recently. As I said, it's primarily Power BI work. I'd like it to sort of move towards more machine learning, but I guess my client base isn't really at that point. They're really wanting to understand what is currently happening and help manage operational issues by using reporting to sort of, I guess, set a clear understanding across the organization of where they are. I'm actually quite happy because one of those clients there, I did my last week with last week, and they were using Tableau. So I've now got a full Power BI deck, which is just great because there's no how do you do that in Tableau, how do you do that in Power BI, because you're just focused on one. So yes, I'm trying to be tool agnostic, but looks like I'll be specializing in Power BI for the next little bit. The main delivery I've been involved with is kind of performance scorecards. So the idea being that you set KPIs for your whole organization, and then you use the Power BI reports to actually have everybody aware of where they're going in relation to those KPIs. And so that's really, I guess, the main thing that these organizations are trying to achieve. Should probably say PSDI is based off doing development work in the Philippines. Good Cash is Good Financial. They give loans to domestic workers in Hong Kong. Archer is that small business credit card company, and I'm actually working for Omic Conveyancing, which is sort of a Brisbane-based conveyancing company, which is lucky because I've just sold my house in Brisbane. So I had a client to give my business to. Moving forward, I've got a startup called An Easier Way that I need to sort of road test and move forward with. And I've been doing a mentorship program. This is year 3. So I think about 80 people that I've been mentoring in that time. So moving on to the challenge with the conveyancing company Own It. So they are a client that wants to get performance scorecards. So they want that KPIs to be consistent across divisions and teams, and I guess have a measure and have everybody be able to come in the morning and understand where they are in relation to their targets, rather than it be a kind of smack you on the back of the head every month that you didn't that you didn't get there once they finally get the data in and understood. That KPI mix is it's a mix of financial and operational, and I guess some of that involves a financial calendar and some involves a sort of more operational Gregorian calendar. I guess they're a big user of a generic system that helps them track the settlements that they need to manage and those tasks within those settlements. And So they use that big sort of generic system that they have from a third party, and they also have lots of SharePoint-based Excel sheets. So it's good that they're in SharePoint, and it's good that you know, they're operating on them rather than sort of being in folder structures, which I would imagine a lot of companies are still doing. We sat down and talked about what I could do for them and what they wanted to achieve. I was recommended by a former client that I'd done the same thing for. And so I guess they were saying, okay, well, can you come and do it for us? And I was like, well, it depends on your data. And I've sort of put here, it's like what they were looking to do was dependent on the data, because yes, what they wanted to do was really simple. It was, you know, made complete sense. But if you can't get the data into Power BI, then, or can't get the data out, then that was going to be kind of the sticking point. So what we decided to do was sort of take a thin slice, identify the hardest data that they thought to get. And this was some really granular level data within this generic system. And this data was going to be needed for this critical report that they wanted to put out, which was about actually today being able to see over the next 3 days which settlements are coming up and what are the complete and incomplete tasks that need to be done for each of those red flag settlements. So moving forward to that, moving forward into how we get that data out of that third-party system, was that third-party system advertised itself as integrated with Power BI. Now, what that drilling down meant is that every night that system was able to generate a SQL file that did that if you ran that SQL code would truncate all the tables that existed and replace them with new tables, and then populate all of those new tables with every single row of data. And that was reasonably okay. We looked at putting that in an Azure data warehouse. And the only problem was that it didn't do it at the task level. It did it at the settlement level, not at the task level. So we sort of had to can that and move forward into sort of how do we get this data out that we really want, which is the generic task, like the general task that needs to be done for each settlement. So, you know, certain forms need to be filled out, banks need to be contacted, all of those things. So you need it at the task level. And so the only way of getting that out was there was a subscription service which allowed you to design sorry, I'm just going to move on to the next slide. The third-party system allowed you to design extracts or sort of reports that you could subscribe to by email. So we started kind of going down this idea of potentially having those extracts and then loading them into putting them in SharePoint or loading them into a data warehouse. And I guess I came across the opportunity to load them straight into Power BI. And that was something that I went, well, it's simpler. It gets it there quickly. It's not perfect as I highlight on this slide, but the idea was that we could actually set up the extracts to match the dimension and fact tables needed to put a star schema together. What that third-party system does do really well is it does consistently send it at the same time. It gives you an hour window that you can have it sent in, and it seems to be sending it at the same time every day. And so, look, it's not one I would recommend for every client, but it's a pragmatic one that gets the data there quickly and easily. There is a challenge I've got now where there is some data where we're kind of wanting to do an incremental load, and that is going to sort of more suit some sort of data warehouse solution. Although I'm sort of looking that there is some incremental load options in Power BI Premium that I'll be looking into. And another issue that did raise its head was this third-party system. You could set up an extract. So, for example, all the tasks in the system, you could set up that extract, but it would never arrive. And it wouldn't arrive because it was the file that the system was generating was too big to actually send by email. And so what we were able to do is actually actually cut it into several sections. So you'd have open tasks and then closed tasks from pre-2017, and then more recent closed tasks. And that was just a way of managing the sizing issues. But I guess that's the background, and that's the sort of solution that we came up with. I guess what I wanted to do is kind of step through that process, just so that everybody can come out of this going, I know how to do it. And I guess as I go through, there's a couple of sort of lessons from doing this, but also this has actually sort of raised some ideas around sort of what you could use this for sort of moving forward for other projects. So I'm just going to come out of that and go into Power BI. Now I've opened up Power BI. I haven't done anything. So this is hopefully a completely live demo, which obviously all completely live demos go wrong. But let's see how this goes. So if I, and I'm going to need, so if I go get data and search for Exchange, you can see I've got Microsoft Exchange as an option there, and I connect. Now I set up most of the data I'm using, well, all the data I'm using in this demo is the data that the client used, but I'm going to do it in such a way that I don't expose any privacy issues by exposing any client information or anything like that. But I did get the data sent to a different address so that I can choose which data I show. And so that was the email address. And I was actually, I'll show you now. I was actually going to show you this. This is the Outlook inbox. It's got 276 emails. It looks like, I'd say, the majority of people's inboxes. It's got a whole heap of data I was going to do this demo off, but it's sort of pretty messy. And here, Power BI, you can see sort of some extracts that are being sent. So imagine instead of it saying Power BI, it said third-party system, and it could be any sort of subscription service that's sending data, and the data themselves are just CSV files. So, and I guess, sorry, also as well is, look, they're coming in at 7 o'clock in the evening, you know, for the last few days. They've come in kind of in this evening window. What we've done with the client is have it come in at 4:50 or between 4 and 5 Adelaide time. And so, so it comes in, and then the Power BI data model is then scheduled to refresh about half an hour or an hour after that, so that all the data is available and processed before they come in the morning. Back to Power BI, the first navigator selection is mail, calendar, meeting requests, people, and tasks. I'm going to come back to calendar because that's interesting, but I'm just going to go with mail right now, and immediately we start seeing that we can get all of those emails. You can actually see those emails are coming in, and some of that data, date, time sent, date, time received, those sorts of things. There's previews in there for those emails with text. So if I just click transform, then we move on to Power Query Editor, and we see the whole of my inbox as the table here that we've brought in so far. I'm just going to move that there. I guess one thing, having played around with this for a while, something I didn't see in a lot of the data that I was using was this expand button. And I guess this is really important in terms of the information that we have here, and is a good way of actually sort of identifying more fields that are available that sort of don't appear straight away. So if I click on the sender, I can split it, and I can include the name and the address of this sender. So if I do that, you'll be able to see that the data that I want to is coming from this Power BI at ownit.com.au account. You can see that these other accounts have been sending me emails. So if I just select that Power BI at ownit.com.au, then I'll put a filter in and only get the emails that I'm looking to include. The next stage, and probably a recommendation on this, is at the moment, whilst maybe if I just go up a level and see if I've got any information. Yes, I have. So you see how it says deleted items and inbox. This isn't just giving us the inbox. This is giving us every single folder in our Exchange account. So what I would recommend doing is that you could actually have rules to move certain data into certain folders, and then you could have you could filter by folder here instead of sender. But what I would definitely recommend is that you have a filter so that you remove deleted items. That way you'll never be trying to load data from your deleted items, and it gives you a way of managing that. So for example, as I'm building this, I might have to tweak an extract, which means sending it again, which means that I have multiple extracts available that I may want to only read one of them in. And just removing deleted items just allows me to manage that in Outlook itself. So now that I've kind of moved onto that, what I want to do is, I've got this extract matters open, for example, and then extract matters open again, and extract matters open. So I've got this file that's being delivered to me every day. It's getting updated every day. It does contain all the data. So it contains every single open matter, which is effectively a settlement. And so what I want to do is I only want to keep the last one. There's probably a few ways to do that. You could write some logic to take the last one. What I've done is, because I want to understand when this process is failing, is gone with quite a heavy-handed. I'm only going to read the data in if it's come from the last 24 hours. And so what I do is I can use the date time sent, which is useful because you're actually getting from the server when it's sent rather than when you've actually received that. And if you do we'll do a custom filter on this. What I initially did was I tried to do in the last 24 hours. But what you actually need to do is in this hour, or is in the previous 23 hours. And that allowed me to select the rows that I wanted to have a look at. moving on, I've got six files that I need to read in. I'll choose one of them. The names are coming through. Actually, I don't want to choose that one. I want to choose the one that doesn't have data, that is private. So we'll do this one. And again, with the expansion, you can expand the attachments here. So where we've got table, you can expand, so you can see all of the information relating to the attachment, the type of attachment, the extension of the attachment, and here we've got the binary that we click on to actually select the file. If we move forward, you can see it's all IDs, so I didn't have to worry about showing any of it. You can see that this top row is not data that we need to keep, and we can use the first row as headers once that's removed. And there is the data. There is the data loaded effectively. So we've got our matter IDs and we've got our client IDs. And if you do that with everything, you can then set up your Power BI data model in the same way. What I do want to, that seems quite basic going through it step by step like that. But I guess what I really want to do is kind of just show kind of how easy it is, but also the opportunities that then creates is if you are able to, if you do have a third-party system, or you have some system or something online where you're getting something sent by email, this then opens up a lot of power in terms of bringing it in and utilizing Power Query. Couple of sort of things that I would do to set up the other ones is just duplicate that. So you either go to advanced editor and copy that code. I'd probably neaten up some of these names. You can duplicate, and so you could change the so instead of filtering on this subject, you could then come up here and change that to something else for the next one, for example. The next thing I want to come to is what I said before, is that we actually have here available calendar and people and tasks and meeting requests. And I thought, oh, could kind of do something with calendar here where, if you wanted a report and people could actually book time in your calendar for something, you could actually understand what appointments you had coming up. You could actually use Power BI almost to sort of understand, alongside actual data from your business, actually understand meetings that you've got coming up. It could almost be like your, one-stop, dashboard for your day as a manager. I had a look in calendar, and I was quite interested to find this out, which is that because you've got a calendar, and because the calendar knows that because Outlook knows that I'm in Australia, that calendar has all the public holidays in it and the days that those public holidays fall on. So one thing I had been doing is creating a calendar file that had public holidays in it, whereas now I don't have to. I can just link to this table straight out of my calendar and know that Outlook is going to add and adjust my public holidays. I think it goes through to 2026, but progressively will add and remove them, rather than what I'm doing right now, which is I've got a flat file with just public holidays listed. So I thought that was kind of a neat trick to be able to kind of utilize something that's updated in your Outlook calendar, actually in your Power BI reporting. So for example, a lot of the challenge in the KPI reports that I'm building is dividing by the number of business days. Therefore, you have to know which days are public holidays so that you're dividing by the right number of business days. And this is one instance where that would increase that automation. And also as well, the brackets, having Queensland in brackets would allow you to actually then only apply the ones that apply in Queensland for my Queensland client, and apply the other ones that apply to the whole of Australia, which are the ones without the brackets. So there's definitely stuff you can do here with calendar. That's kind of all I wanted to show in Power BI. I guess I sort of mentioned some of the opportunities. It could be used with one client. We're going to use Microsoft Forms to have parts of the business input information and then use that as a input into the Power BI reporting. But you could easily have a system whereby there is a specific email address set up for safety incidents, or whatever it might be, or sort of instances of I don't know, whatever instance you want your branch managers or your certain people raising, having an email address where they send the email with the detail in it. And then your Power BI report can count the number of emails, and it can show you the email addresses they came from. It can show you the detail within those, not as kind of the standalone report, but as part of a suite of existing reporting. I think is interesting. I'm a big believer in Dave Allen's Get Things Done, and which is a method around sort of personal productivity. This could be used for, utilizing your Outlook as a way of capturing all of that information that you then use your Power BI report to visualize that. And yeah, I've mentioned about sort of public holidays. I think there are services whereby you can download your sporting teams calendars into Outlook. So if you had something like that, you could then actually have your sporting team fixtures coming through. And maybe, I don't know, there's the kind of, I've put the blue sky there because I think the power in here is kind of the option that you then go, okay, well, I've got the option to use this, and where does it make sense? Because you've also got people, you've got contacts there that you can bring in. You've got meeting requests, and you've got the tasks feature within Outlook that you could utilize as well. I've gone slightly over time, so I'm hopefully haven't bored everybody.
Awesome, Stuart.
Okay. But I just wanted to come over. I love this picture of this owl. I sort of yeah. So any questions anyone's got, or anything that I should be considering?
We did have a question in the chat. Someone asked, why wouldn't you use SSIS, or why didn't you use SSIS?
Could do. I guess the same kind of with Power Automate and I don't know, like Power Automate's the official name, right? What used to be called Flow. I think look, they're all options, I guess. And I guess why there's kind of pragmatic is in the title is this is a company that I'm doing it for. They don't have any internal IT, so they outsource all their IT. They're really looking for something that works, and obviously trying to keep expense down. And yeah, it's definitely something that you could use. But yeah, this just seems like a really quick way to do. Like I did a project last year where it was like, we used Data Factory, and we used Power Automate, and we used Power BI, and we used, something else, and they're all kind of talking to each other and doing various different things. Whereas this was kind of like, well, if we only need an Outlook account, they've already got SharePoint. Power BI can just talk to SharePoint and talk to Outlook. We're done. And I think the client liked that they got something that they're presenting to their business sort of virtually straight away. And we sort of proved that we can get the data they need. Now, they may end up going down a data warehouse path for more more of what they want. But if the engagement stopped now, they would have what they needed for their kind of critical reporting. And I think that's the kind of key thing here. And I just thought it was cool that you could do it so, as well. So, but yeah, you're right. You could definitely use integration services.
It might be the new "it depends" answer, because it was cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I like it.
I guess the thing that I was trying to show, and I probably didn't mention with my client base, is it's not the top end of town. And to really show that is that somebody at Own It knows a gas and plumber, and he's been in contact today about me doing Power BI reports for his gas and plumbing business. So it's not the top end of town by any means. And I really like that sort of this is where this is going, is that you are having businesses that are starting to want to embrace that, using data to help them make decisions. And Power BI, that you could very much have an Outlook account, a shared drive, and a Power BI report, and there's minimum infrastructure you would need, and you let Microsoft sort out the security. So yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Right, well,
cool.
we've got your contact details there, so if anyone wants to get in touch with Stuart, feel free to copy those down, but don't worry, we'll share them around. This is being recorded, so it's all good.